So again, I think that tonight's an exciting opportunity with the echo. Apparently, it's very exciting. But again, to recognize Sergeant Joseph's dedication to the department. Obviously, as you know, I've been here for almost 3 years now. And during that time, I've gotten to know Sergeant Joseph and his concern for the welfare of our officers, but also too in the community. Just today, I received an email, which I'll go ahead and read, that I think just exemplifies his level of service and concern, and also too to just his outreach within the community. It's people all over the community, not just one certain subsection of the community. So this letter says, it's from Lori Eichen. It says, hello, I'm currently out of town or I'd be at the council meeting tonight. I want to commend on the appreciation many of us have had over the years for Sergeant Rod Joseph. Sergeant Joseph has been an excellent example of what a people's police officer should be. He has always been responsive and open to requests from the community, a friendly person that will be missed from the Clearlake PD. We could count on him and his officers to help with CC per C in cleaning up our community, and he would always respond to our calls and emails. I wish Sergeant Joseph a happy and healthy retirement, and whoever replaces him to be as community friendly as he has always been. You will be missed. Sincerely, Lori Eichen. Again, that's just one representation, but I think of how many people in the community feel, how I feel. I know that tonight, and actually the last few weeks leading up to this has been very emotional for Sergeant Joseph. But I think as he looks back on his career, there's many things to be proud of. And I believe as a city that we can stand steadfast and be proud of the fact that we brought him onto this department and brought somebody like his character to the community and really did a lot of great things since his time here. He was also able to leverage all the experience that he had before at the different agencies, which you heard of in the commendation, to better serve our community. So I know I'm going to personally miss you being around, and obviously on a professional basis too. But I also think that you've left a positive impression on people that will continue within the community. So with that, I know you wanted to say just a few things, so I'll bring you up and then we'll close this out.
Well, it seems like yesterday that I started. Actually, got to train Sergeant Selly, and he was my trainer. And I remember learning the streets of Clearlake. But it feels like it really doesn't feel like it was just yesterday. And of course, the years have gone by very fast. And, you know, I've had a bunch of people reach out and they thank me for my service, but really, I made a lasting impression. City, the citizens, I just want to thank you for recognition.
So as we close out here, I wanted to thank our volunteer, Linda Peralta, who helped organize our outreach to the legislators and ensure that your dedication and your service was properly recognized. So thank you for your work with that. The second thing is that, you know, we all are humans behind the badge, and sometimes people forget that because of the work that we're called upon to do. But truly, it's our families that enable us to get our work done. And at this time, I want to recognize your wife, Rose, who's back there taking video. But thank you for your support of Rod and enabling him to serve the community. And, you know, I couldn't be more happy about being able to return him back to you all in one piece. And with plenty of energy to get all the projects done around the house as he works to move on to the next phase of his life. So with that, there will be one more thing. I'll put the mic back. Thank you. Man staff, stand up. Man staff, present arms. Man staff, order arms. Man staff, at ease.
We'll take a 5-minute break here. We'll take a 5-minute break here. All right, when everybody's back on the dais, we'll go on with our city council meeting. All right, so Mr. Alan Flora, we have item number 2, presentation by Housing and Community Development Department and the Cover CA Owner Occupied Rehabilitation and Reconstruction Program. Looks like we have somebody on our Zoom meeting for that.
Honorable Mayor, we have Joe Hilo, Maziar Mavazagi, Tim Tsai, and Michael Gegner with California Department of Housing and Community Development on the Zoom.
Great, thank you. Please proceed with your presentation, sir.
Thank you, members of the council. My name is Maziar Movasagi from the Housing Community Development Department. I am the Chief Disaster Recovery Officer. As mentioned, I'm joined by members of our team working on implementing our disaster recovery programs. They're going to cover the details of the single-family owner-occupied reconstruction and recovery program. But before I turn the microphone over to them about the details, I just wanted to set the context of this program. It is a program, it's a federal program. So eligible funds are over 7 counties in Northern California and Southern California that were impacted by the wildfires and the debris flows back in 2017, late 2017. These resources, we only got $124 million for over $1 billion of unmet recovery needs. So there's a clear recognition that this one program is not going to make anyone whole or any one community whole. So it has to be part of our recovery plans. We continue to advocate for additional resources, but this is the bucket of money we got right now. The other thing I also wanted to highlight that it has taken a long time to implement this program, and I wanted to acknowledge that no one's satisfied with the timeline. These are one-time, one-off programs that HUD implements. So by the time Congress allocates the money, HUD issues the rules of how we can use that allocation, and then we go through our approval processes to have a program that we're going to be talking about. It took us 3 years since the disasters. So on that note, we're also working with other states to get HUD to improve this program to shorten the time for future disasters. I know it doesn't help over here, but we do want to recognize that it has taken some time and we're definitely not satisfied with it, but we are moving forward with the resources we have because we know there are folks that are still struggling to put a roof over heads after the fires back in 2017. So with that, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Joseph Hilo. Joseph and Michael are going to take you through the details of the program and with important information that we're hoping that will get disseminated to everyone in your community. So Joseph, the microphone's yours.
Thank you, Maziar. Good evening, everyone. I do have a presentation, so let me see if I can get my screen. Okay. And if I can just get a quick confirmation that you guys can see my screen.
We're good.
Great. Okay, so hello, everyone, and thank you for having us in your meeting this evening. My name is Joe Hilo. I'm the Recover California OOR, Owner Occupied Rehabilitation Reconstruction Program Manager here with HCD. I'm joined today by Tim Tsai, the Program Representative, and Michael Gagne, our Homeowner Assistance Program Manager. So the plan for this evening is to go quickly over the program with a quick overview. Then we'll talk about key program policies, eligibility factors. Then we will also walk you through the process of participating in the program through the survey and application. And we'll leave you with contact information for the team. And if time permitting, we can take questions. So a quick program overview. In response to the 2017-2018 federally declared disasters, the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, allocated approximately $1.2 billion to HCD, to the state, to help with the state's disaster recovery efforts. As we can see, the source of our funding is federal, and disaster recovery funds are to assist in the recovery efforts in the federally declared disaster areas. So HCD created the Owner Occupied Rehabilitation and Reconstruction Program, also known as the Recover California Program. Program currently has a $252 million allocation, and will be providing gap funding grants up to $200,000 for eligible survivors. Gap funding basically means that program funds are the last resort funding after the applicants use their funds that they received to repair or rebuild the disaster damaged property. For example, after receiving the FEMA funds, SBA, insurance recoveries, other settlements, or other funds from any other source. After that has been exhausted, if there is still a remaining need, then they can use the CDBG-DR funds or the OR program funds. So to help with the repair or reconstruction of the damaged properties, the program offers two construction solutions. Solution one is program managed. Under this option, that's where the program will work with all the mobile homes or manufactured housing units. And solution two is a homeowner managed program. So let's go to a bit more details on those two options. Solution one, this is where the program's own construction management vendor will complete the design, prepare the scope of work, and complete the construction all the way to issuing the occupancy certificate. Construction will be completed using standard grade materials. The construction management vendor will also complete the Tier 2 site-specific environmental review and clearance, and that is needed before we begin the construction or repair. For manufactured housing, again, under Solution 1, the program has two thresholds to determine if a mobile home or manufactured housing unit is repairable. So if the unit is built on or after 2009 and it has less than $10,000 in damage, then it is eligible for repair. Otherwise, it will need to be replaced. For mobile homes or MHUs, the construction management vendor will carry out the acquisition of the unit, the site prep, the haul and install, and will also ensure that registration and titling is complete. If the homeowner has already engaged their own contractor or does not wish to use the program's construction management vendor, they can choose Solution 2. For Solution 2, construction services are carried out by the homeowner's own contractor. The program construction management vendor will review the plans, monitor and inspect construction activities, and can be available to assist in developing the scope of work for the construction project. Going over key program policies. So all funding must be spent in the disaster affected area, which is Lake County. 80% of the funds, the CDBG-DR, the Community Development Block Grant for Disaster Recovery, 80% of the funding that we have must be spent in the HUD designated most impacted and distressed area, the MID. And we'll provide additional details on the MID in the next slide. Also, 70% of the CDBG-DR funds must be spent to benefit low to moderate income population, LMI. LMI households are the ones with income that is below 80% of the area median income, which is based on income limits published by HUD and adjusted annually. And on the bottom of the slide, a link is provided to the income limits set by HUD. So the mid area is HUD identified as the areas that are most impacted by the disaster. Defined for 2017 as the zip code 95422. For 2018, it was defined as the entirety of Lake County. And on the bottom part of the slide, you'll see the affected areas for each of the 2017 and 2018 disasters. Okay. So eligible uses of the funds, basically the two eligible uses are to repair or rebuild, replace the damaged property. So basically funding from the OR program cannot be used to pay off your mortgage or pay off SBA loans or business loans. So the funds are targeted to repair or replace. So essentially, the aim of this program is to provide funding to repair or reconstruct the damaged home at the same lot in substantially the same footprint. For manufactured housing units that cannot return to their original site, for example, units in a mobile home park where the park is not coming back as a mobile home park, the program can still provide funding for a new mobile home unit to be placed in another location within program guidelines. Okay, so let's talk a bit about eligibility. So the property needs to be located in the disaster affected area, basically in the affected county. So you don't have to be part of the mid to be eligible. You don't have to be a part of the most impacted and distressed area to be eligible, just being in the affected county. The property was damaged as a result of the qualifying event, one of the declared disasters. So we have to show a tie back to the disaster. And the property still has remaining damage. It has a remaining need. The property must have been the primary residence of the applicant at the time of the disaster. So that says that program funds cannot be used for second homes, vacation homes, rental properties, and program funds can only cover the main home. So we cannot cover detached garages or detached accessory dwelling units. The property needs to be a titled single-family dwelling or mobile home on a fixed pad. Property taxes need to be current. The applicant must be a US citizen or a qualified alien to be eligible for federal funding. And the applicant must have been the owner at the time of the disaster. So they cannot have purchased the property after the disaster. Okay, just quickly on how the program will calculate the award amount. So program will look at the estimated cost of repair of construction, which is what is remaining, the remaining need. We will look at duplication of benefits and see what the grant award, which is basically what is the construction cost, total construction cost minus any duplicative benefits. So homeowners with duplicative benefits or duplicative funds will have to come in before construction starts, place the funds in an escrow account with the program before construction begins. The program will review any duplication of benefits and complete a duplication of benefit analysis before award determination and as part of our ongoing compliance efforts after the completion of the project. So again, after completion, the program will monitor for ownership for 24 months. The applicant or recipient of the funds should maintain the property in their name for 24 months, cannot sell, should maintain the property as their primary residence, and should maintain flood insurance if required, if in a special flood hazard area, and also is required to maintain their property taxes current. So that takes us to the applicant survey and program process, and I will hand it off to our homeowner assistance manager, Michael.
Thank you, Joseph, and thank you, Council, for this opportunity to share this information with your citizens as they continue to have needs towards their recovery. On the next slide, what we'll see in this diagram is that disaster survivors have a streamlined but multi-step process that starts with completing the program survey and ultimately ends with them occupying their new home. The 6 steps that are outlined demonstrate the program progress through work beginning on a survivor's property. After a survey is completed, survivors are prioritized by tier. It's our way of ranking which order survivors are served by the program. And then they're ultimately invited to complete a full application, which is shown in step 3. Throughout the process, and once an application is submitted by a survivor, there's case management workers alongside with the survivors that support them in gathering any needed documentation for determining the survivor's eligibility. So if a survivor comes to the program and may have some challenges in obtaining any particular documentation, maybe it's an insurance record or policy from years back, etc., dedicated case management staff will work with that survivor in obtaining that information for the program. Once an applicant is deemed eligible, The program will complete the damage assessment, as Joseph mentioned, the environmental review, duplication, benefits check, and then the award calculation. And that's when work will begin on the property. Although the diagram shown here is represented linearly, kind of straightforward, many of these steps after the application is submitted occur concurrently, so at the same time. So although it's sequential here, many of these steps take place at the same time. And as shown on the next slide, we conduct a large amount of outreach to potential survey respondents to start this process. To serve the broadest possible survivor population, our outreach efforts have already included over 10,000 printed materials across the state, media and local community partnerships engagement, numerous phone, email, internet, and where permitted, we'll have in-person outreach events. The targeted outreach is also conducted for FEMA-assisted individuals. Oftentimes we find that FEMA-assisted individuals, if their full recovery needs are not met through that or other means, are prime candidates for this program, and other individual vulnerable populations. The key takeaway here is that the survivor survey is open, and everyone should be encouraged to complete the survey. The survey can be completed online, as indicated here at recover.hcd.ca.gov. And once the survey is submitted, respondents are automatically placed into that prioritization tier and invited to start an application by the program. As we mentioned previously, survivor applications will be prioritized, and this criteria is a combination of both the federal requirements and the program identified unmet needs. One example of this is based on individuals' location, their income, along with major damage that the individual may have sustained, their unmet recovery need, and this was identified by Joe by the LMI populations or the mid counties. Additionally, Recover CA is prioritizing survivors with a disabled household member and some other criteria. So again, the most important thing here is to encourage any survivor that has remaining recovery needs to complete the survey. The next slide represents the tiering system used by Recover CA. To kind of break this down in a digestible manner, the tiers 1 through 4 are all LMI. So that's the low to moderate income and prioritized ahead of non-LMI applicants. So the intent of the program is really to assist those that may not or do not have the means to assist themselves. Tier 1 is applicants including Lake County and that are LMI and experience a major or severe damage to the property. Again, the only way we'll know this or how a survivor is prioritized is once they complete the survey. And in the next couple slides, we'll share some information about how the survivor can access and complete a very quick survey. You'll see here, again, the link to the survey. Any individual that wishes to complete the survey, but either doesn't have access or familiarity or comfort with completing the survey online, which is fairly straightforward, is encouraged to call our office, speak directly with a case manager, and that case manager can actually submit the survey on their behalf over the phone. Additionally, we can send printed materials directly to an individual to participate in the program, paper copies, if you will. And that's another means that we can reach any population in a community that wishes to complete the survey. Additionally, one of the main things that we like to provide survey respondents is immediate confirmation that they've submitted their survey and their tiered status. So when they log in to complete the survey, there is no need for additional documentation. So whatever a survivor knows and can enter on their own, they'll receive confirmation through this email that also places them in that prioritized tier stated earlier. And then the program will later verify that information with the survivor to make sure everything's correct to move forward. So this is one way that a survivor, when they complete that survey, as you see here in the example for Joseph's survey, he was placed in tier 1 based on the information that he provided. We find that very helpful for survivors and a means to show them progress and encouragement of their prioritization and our interest in helping them kind of be at the front of the line in that recovery, if you will. And if there's time permitted, one more thing, sorry. The last slide that we have, again, has the links, has the contact information for any community partnerships. We've already worked with some that would like community engagement, outreach information, printed materials, electronic materials, as well as what's already in the community, as well as direct contact information for our case management lead. And then you've already met Joseph as well. If we have time permitting, we'd be happy to entertain a few questions as council permits.
Any of the councilman has a question? Yeah, it's Councilman Woman Overton.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. So I'm curious about a lot of our elderly people here in Lake County do not do emails. How do they get their confirmation? Will it be sent to them?
Absolutely. So anybody who requests to participate in the program, not by this means, we have a couple avenues. Well, one, we'll ask if anybody in family member, anyone else with that survivor has an email, because that's always a great point of contact for us. But we'll also follow up with them by phone and by written communication, or through the post office, snail mail, whatever the case might be. What we actually do is we'll work with that survivor for what their preferred means of communication is. So it's not really a one size fits all. Really on a case-by-case basis with each survivor, particularly our vulnerable populations, whether elderly, disabled, whatever the situation might be, we can really accommodate their preferred means of communication, because we tend to find the best participation and engagement when we do that.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? No additional questions. Thank you very much for your presentation. We hope that it brings to light that we can use your help here in the city of Clear Lake. Thank you for this presentation. And we'll go on to presentation of a proclamation declaring June 2021 as LGBTQ+ Pride Month. Whereas our nation was founded on the principles of equal rights for all people, but the fulfillment of this promise has been long in coming for many Americans. Some of the most inspiring moments in our history have risen from the various civil rights movements that have brought one group after another from the margins to the mainstream of American society. Whereas in the movement towards equal rights for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people, a historic turning point occurred on June 28, 1969 in New York City with the onset of the Stonewall riots. During these riots, LGBTQ citizens rose up and resisted police harassment from those aroused out of discrimination. Criminal laws have been since declared unconstitutional, and in the 4 decades since, civil rights for LGBTQ people have grown substantially. And the LGBTQ Pride celebrations have taken place around the country every June to commemorate the beginning of the Stonewall riots. Whereas California has been a leader in advancing the civil rights of its LGBTQ citizens, and while further progress is needed, it's important to recognize and celebrate the substantial gains that have been achieved. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Clear Lake does hereby proclaim June 2021 as LGBTQ Pride Month in the City of Clear Lake, and calls upon its citizens to eliminate prejudice everywhere it exists and celebrate the diversity of our community. Signed by me, June 3rd, 2021. All right, we'll go to public comment. This is the time for any member of the public to address the City Council or any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow the council or staff to discuss issues brought forward under the public comment. The council cannot take action on non-agenda items. Concerns may be referred to staff or placed on the next available agenda. Please note that comments from the public will also be taken on each agenda item, and comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we any from the public that wants to make a public comment? Please state your name, sir. when you-
First of all, thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? Anyway, I live in Clearlake Oaks, and I've lived up here for about 5 years. And this is something I think you would all agree upon. We have a beautiful city here, and we need to see some improvements made to it so that we can have better people from out of town coming in and enjoy our, beauty that we have around here. These are the items I think are important to me, and I hope that they're important to you too. First of all, we have a couple problems here in our city that I'd like to see corrected. And by that, I mean, over where the water park used to be, we have junk cars piled up over there, and you people in the council need to do something about it. We have a beautiful, real estate over in that area, but because of this stuff going on, nobody wants to come up and look at and maybe build like a big lots, like I said, Big Lot, what's the other store? Target, and also probably have Chili's restaurants, Black Angus or Denny's or some other restaurant come up here, and that would beautify our city. We would have more income coming in. I know you're all looking for revenue to help the city grow, and my comments, I hope, are taken seriously, and I think that will be beneficial for everybody that's here. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have any additional comments from the public here? It is. Any additional comments from public attending here? If not, do we have anything from Zoom?
Mr. Mayor, there are no hands raised within the Zoom room.
If not, no other public comment. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Any changes to the consent agenda, Mr. City Manager?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, any of the council wants to look at the, pull an item? Any of the public wants to pull an item of the consent? If not, we'll go back to the council. Can I have a motion to?
Mr. Mayor, I would move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Kramer and a second by Councilman Claffey. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We go now to public hearings. First item on the agenda is item number 10. City Manager Alan Flora, could you please present the staff report?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So this is the first of two public hearings tonight, both related to proposed cannabis business within the city. The scope of the discussion related to each of these items is around the development agreement. And so the city council added to the municipal code a few years ago the requirement for cannabis businesses to enter into a development agreement with the city prior to their use permit being, it's a condition of the use permit. So this particular one here was kind of a more recent update where the cannabis ordinance was updated to allow the 3 existing retail dispensaries in the city to apply for a micro business permit. And so this is sort of a special section of state law allowing micro business operations, which is, a business to operate with multiple business types at one location rather than the typical structure, which would require there to be a distribution license in one special area that's separate from a cultivation license. And so you may recall that D&M Compassion Center, probably 1.5 years, 2 years ago, applied and received a micro business permit. This is it's listed as Aquaba, but it's a Triple C collective. Aquaba is the legal entity that operates that business. And so I could try to address any questions on the operation itself, but that's not really what's before the council tonight. That was all reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission at one of their recent meetings, but this would allow them to operate multiple business types at their location here on Lakeshore Drive, including retail, cultivation. The city added an additional restriction beyond state law that allows nursery-only cultivation and micro business locations, and then also distribution and manufacturing. And I would point out that manufacturing in this case does not include, volatile type things, but is really just like labeling and packaging and that type of thing. And so the development agreements for you is the same development agreement that has been used for all of the other cannabis businesses over the last several years. There's nothing different about this one, but one of the key elements is does require a 5% gross receipts fee be paid to the city once they begin operating. So that's kind of the overview of the staff report. I do believe the applicant is on the Zoom room if the council has any questions related to the development agreement.
Any questions for staff? I don't see any. Okay, we'll open it up to the public. Any comments from the public on this item? If not, we'll bring it back to the council. Now, maybe we can hear from the applicant. Madam Clerk, is he on there? Or?
Yes, he has the ability to speak.
Can he, is he trying to get on or she? City Manager, Mr. Flora, is he?
They are there and permitted to speak, but maybe they don't have anything. Don't have anything to say.
Okay, well, we'll close the public hearing. Anything, council, any additional questions? If not, can I entertain a motion? Go ahead, Mr.
In the matter of consideration of development agreement DA 2021-02 for Akwaba Inc. to allow the expansion of their existing cannabis operation to include a micro business. I'd like to hold the first reading of ordinance number 254-2021, read by title only, waive further reading and set second reading and adoption for development agreement 2021-02.
All right, we have a motion by Councilman Kramer and a second by Councilwoman Overton. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. Go to item number 11. Mr. Flora, would you please give us a staff report?
Sure, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So this is the second public hearing related to a development agreement. This one is for Green Growth Solutions, which is a new commercial cannabis operation just off of Highway 53 near Ogden Canyon Road within the commercial cannabis combining district zone. Again, this is about a 15-acre project that would be developed into cultivation, processing, and distribution. So there'd be a 2-story metal building for indoor cultivation, administrative uses, about 40,000 square feet, and then hybrid greenhouses for indoor cultivation that are consistent with the requirements of the municipal code. So the Planning Commission reviewed and approved this project on May 17th and recommended that the City Council approve the development agreement. Again, this development agreement is similar to the one that you just, or identical other than the address and ownership differences to the one you just approved. And so I would try to address any questions. I mean, I would say on this one, we have gotten a few public comments about certain parts of the project. the appropriate time to address those would have been before the planning commission. There was no appeal or anything of the planning commission's decision that was done within a timely manner. And so really the action before the council tonight is consideration of the development agreement. And our applicant, Mr. Gustafson, is here to address any questions that council may have as well.
Do you have any questions from the council for staff? I don't see any. Was the applicant wishes to speak? Okay, all right. All right, we'll open the public hearing. Any from the public wants to address this issue?
Mr. Mayor, I've received a couple of comments to read into the record.
Please read those.
First of all, from Judy Ann Barczak. For cannabis project on Old Highway 53. Is the person reading this going to care about property owners who are not giving the county and city the huge tax revenue that these big commercial operations can? I've seen their multiple water tanks to fill with water that is already being spread too far. There is evidence in this valley showing that the water table is lower than it used to be. Whether the water comes from the outrageous costly supply from the government or from wells that property owners put their money and time into, all the water comes from the same source, rain and snow. We are in a drought and have had many years of it. It is about time all property owners start getting the representation and consideration from the government personnel that it decides the fate of all property owners by their decisions. Driving out there to see the site, it looks like they are ready to start operation, like a done deal. The fix is in. Your time listening to other property owners seems like a charade. I understand that to water one cannabis plant for 1 week takes 25 gallons. That extra water they are going to be filling those water tanks with should stay in the ground for all property owners. We already have more and more vineyards coming in, taking huge amounts of water. Now you are going to add a big cannabis operation to it. People are acting as if the water is an endless supply that we can pull out of the ground in a continuous, excessive supply, and it is not. People who have farm animals in the surrounding area need to have water, and the underground water table is getting strained. The amount of water tanks they have should not be legal when it shows no consideration for needed water for surrounding property owners. The second is from Cheryl Sullivan, who states, "Dear City Council members, I'm writing you tonight in regards to public hearing item 11. I'm not necessarily opposed to cannabis production and think the east side of the highway is a good location as there are already cannabis operations out there. I do have some questions regarding this particular project. I'm hoping you will discuss them fully and have answers. I understand that the 50,000 square foot building will be only 50 feet from Highway 53. There are 15 available acres. Why can't it be set back further on the property and out of the scenic corridor of 300 feet? What landscaping plans are in place? Has security for the site been discussed? If so, what is the plan for security? What has been done for fire mitigation? What about the water situation? I'm very worried about the water table. I'm sure the cannabis operation requires a great amount of water. We are already in a severe drought. Wells are drying up, the lake is down, and no rain is in sight. Why is the city council approving a large-scale cannabis operation without water restrictions? Thank you for your attention to these questions. I hope to hear some answers tonight." And that is the conclusion of the prepared statements I've received.
Okay, if there's no more public comment, the applicant wants to make a comment? State your name, please.
Hello, my name is Joseph Gustafson. I think both applicants I do get why they're worried about the water, so am I. We recycle water at my place. We don't have any water tanks there yet. And I think they're talking about the site where they're storing stuff, just so that the public's aware that none of those tanks are mine and none of that stuff's mine. It's for a total project. So if she drove down the road and seen a project that wasn't mine, nothing to say there.
Thank you. All right, with some additional comments from the public. Come on, go ahead, Denise.
Can't hear you.
This item, I think, went to the planning commission on April. I'm not sure if it's more, but the citing of it to the environment was over a week. So citing it out. And didn't the commission look at that on Monday? Is that enough time to get together and some diversity? And on the second thing, I'm not opposed. I just want to make sure that we don't do things like we have in the past. Like the first time they didn't get proper time. So, please send it back to this time.
My name is Dave Hughes, and I have a home at 2705 Highway 53, which basically is a lot of proposed operation. And I do want to start with, I'm not opposed to the operation per se. I've been here before talking about odors down Hoggyland Canyon. City Council sent a letter to the county once allowing a free grow to start within 100 limits, and we violated ordinances and assist was ordered. My biggest concern has always been odor. I've talked to Mr. Gustafson, and by the way, I want to apologize to Mr. Gustafson, to the Planning Commission, to city staff, to the city council. I received the packet on Saturday. The hearing was on Monday. Since the hearing, I've had the opportunity and time to look into more of the information that was available that I didn't look at before the hearing. I was on the Zoom meeting. However, I was at a computer that I normally use for Zoom meetings, but the Zoom meetings I'm used to being at, I have a phone number I can dial into and I can talk on the phone, or there's a column on the right of the Zoom where I can ask questions. That wasn't available to me at the planning commission meeting, and I did not say anything. I didn't shut down my computer at my office and run down here to be at the meeting. So I want to apologize for not being here and not taking maybe a little more time that weekend, taking the Sunday to go through all this stuff. I mean, since then I've gone to the city site, the planning site, and looked at the 175 pages of environmental information that was available that I didn't look at. I just think this is a large project that didn't get a lot of attention from the planning commission. I understand the commissioners probably didn't get their packet until Saturday. The hearing was on Monday. There's a lot of information to look at. This is a big 50,000 square foot of building, 36,000 square feet of growing on 15 acres. So with that said, what I would like to see happen is that the city council delay approval of the development agreement, send this back to the planning commission to do some further review of a number of items. One being hydraulic water. I understand there's a well on the property. We don't know what the well produces. I don't know if it was studied. I don't know if it was looked at. There are people in my neighborhood that think when the grapes, the vineyards went in north of town, their water suffered. They don't have as good a well anymore. But these properties are downhill from the subject property. Is it going to affect the water? I talked to Mr. Gustafson a little bit. He talks about recycling only needing 2 gallons a minute. I don't know what it is. I don't know what he's going to need for sure. I think hydrology should be looked at a little closer. At the planning commission meeting, one of the commissioners wanted to see a better design for the property, for the building. The staff basically said, go ahead and approve the use permit. You can look at the design later. I think the design should be looked at before the city council approves the development agreement. Landscape, the design. Mr. Gustafson told me he's had a study done. There's diseased oaks. He's going to work with the company in Lower Lake to replace the oaks. But what about the rest of the landscaping, the building itself? I noticed on one of the plans, like the trash container enclosure is one of the closest things to the highway. Why can't that be put somewhere back further? These are things that I think the planning commission should have been taken care of that weren't. In the staff report, it says the parking is not up to what the code requires. So they're allowing fewer parking spaces than is required by code. I think we should be required to put the parking spaces in that are required by code. The comment was made at the hearing that if the property sold and someone else was going to do a different use, they could review it and then make that person put in the parking. Why do we not worry about that, have them put in the parking that's required and be done with it? Then we don't have to worry about whether or not somebody 10 years from now remembers that, oh, there wasn't enough parking here. We have a new use. Maybe we should make them put in more parking. One thing I didn't realize at the planning commission meeting, it mentions Caltrans approving or having to approve an encroachment permit, those sorts of things. In discussion with Mr. Gustafson, apparently the access that he's proposing is right turn in only. That means you have to go north on Highway 53 and you can only turn right to get into the property. When you exit the property, it's right turn only. So if you leave the property, you can only go north on Highway 53. And if you leave the property and you don't want to go north on 53, what are your alternatives? You can do a UE right there. You can get into the left turn lane and turn left on the old highway, which will increase traffic in front of my house. Or you can go up to Ogden Canyon Road and turn around there. One of the alternates that Mr. Gustafson mentioned was putting a frontage road in from his property to Ogden Canyon. Caltrans, when I did further research after the use permit hearing, Caltrans mentioned they're okay with the right turn in, right turn out, but they think he should do the frontage road. That would be the best scenario. So I would like the planning commission to look at that again. The scenic corridor issue, I toyed with that. Got the school bus yard across the street. It certainly doesn't take into consideration any kind of a scenic corridor, but it precedes the scenic corridor itself. It's been there, goes back to Roger Helgren and his construction yard for backhoes and septic tanks and that sort of thing. So, historically, the scenic corridor wasn't there. Even the La Rosa industrial park, I don't think the scenic corridor was there when that was put in. So you could argue, what are we worried about? We got the school bus yard, La Rosa, but again, I think we need to at least ensure that the building, if it's going to be within 50 feet of the highway, let's make sure it looks great so that someone coming into town says, oh, well, landscaping there. So anyway, the bottom line, I think I'd like to see the council hold off on approving development agreement, get back to the commission, have them look at these quick review, deal with them, and go from there. So that's my question. Not do.
Thank you, David. All right, any more comments from the public? Okay, the applicant, go ahead.
Just so that they know, Caltrans did not say that they wanted to actually highly. They said in the future widening on the highway, but it was going to be in the same time as when they did their widening project 2 to 3 years down the road. The other thing, the water, my well puts off 20 gallons a minute. So obviously I could use more than that if I tried. I only have an 8-gallon to 10-gallon a minute pump in there, so I don't more than that. And the Clearlake, you guys have given a real small map, which is good because it leads to not a lot of people being able to, bottleneck the industry of trying to get licenses in here. However, your guys' map has left the map of what it is. I didn't buy a property to try to make it cannabis piece of property to try to report. That being said, I really think that the picture that I have has all of the plants and all of the everything on it that Dave's asking for it to be. It does show everything. It's not 50 feet from the road. It's 67 feet from my fence, which is 131 feet from the road. So it's actually 100 feet from the road. So, I mean, I've done a lot of these projects. I really appreciate people's comments, but I wish that they would fully get educated to it before they think there's hard action to it. I think you guys do approve it up according to it.
Thank you. Any additional comments from the public? Do we have any from on Zoom, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, we do have a hand raised on Zoom, 2 hands raised on Zoom. Looks like, first of all, Mark Cooper.
Go ahead, Mr. Cooper.
Okay, I just had to figure out how to unmute. This is my first time to do this with your city council. And I also might not mention to you that when the public speaks at that microphone, you can hardly hear anything unless they have it directly in front of them. So I have to tell you, I haven't heard everything that's been said. I have 2 concerns. One is the scenic corridor, and then the second is the traffic ingress and egress. I'd like to give just a little bit of history. Since I've been in Burns Valley since the 70s, we've had to, people in Burns Valley have had to fight the intrusions into our quality of life since the 1970s. An example is that before we became a city, we had to go to the Board of Supervisors to talk about AT&T's yard that's there. And what we talked about then is that they said at that time, well, we're not going to use Burns Valley to go in and out. We're going to use the highway. That lasted about 6 months. And now they use Burns Valley area continually to get in and out where they need to. The second thing, actually, and this concerns the scenic corridor, AT&T, it's like a garrison. If you notice, there's no front door. Well, they had so many weeds, and to this day, they have nothing to improve the looks of that area. Nothing to make Clearlake look better, as one of the other gentlemen that I did hear talked about. So I finally got in there, and you had to wait till somebody opened a gate, got to talk to somebody, and that one fell totally on deaf ears. They finally pulled out a few weeds, but they still really haven't done anything to improve the area there. So we have fought this battle. So my 2 concerns, one is the scenic corridor. The city council has to really have a vision of the future. What do they want this city to look like as you do enter it? And again, I'm not saying something new. I've already heard it said before here at the meeting. And so I really would like to see some kind of additional planning for the scenic corridor now that we can. And then the second thing is the traffic ingress and egress. And I did hear part of Dave Hughes. If it stays that way and they don't do the frontage road, then here we go again, more traffic into the Burns Valley area. We already talked about, I spoke on this when we were having a meeting about your corporation yard in Burns Valley. I mean, when does this stop? So all I'm asking is to have some vision, look at the future, and see what you want on Highway 53 and what you want it to look like. That's it.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Any additional hands raised in Zoom?
There is one more hand raised in Zoom from Vicky Crystal.
Go ahead, Mrs. Crystal.
Okay. I thank you. basically I have the same feelings as everybody I've heard. I was unable to hear Denise. But I think there's enough concerns here. The water situation, the hydrology, and a study. You know, we are in a terrible drought. I personally don't have anything against a cannabis operation. I'm not one of, you know, I'm not opposed to that. But the corridor as well is concerning for me because, you know, yes, all the way along Highway 53, there's all these businesses that are on the highway or, but we have to start somewhere. And like Dr. Cooper mentioned, you know, we have to have a vision for the future and we have to start. And so I really would like to see that 300 feet included in this. So basically, I think what needs to be done is I think it needs to go back to the Planning Commission, as Dave had mentioned. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Crystal. Any additional comments on Zoom? And just a minute, Mr. DeHue.
Mr. Mayor, I don't see any further hands raised on Zoom.
All right, you have a do-over, Mr. Hughes.
It's some things in operation and then problems with it. If it's done that way, that's what I'm, you know, have to put a little. I think we need to consider what how much cannabis, how many cannabis operations are tourism, and I suppose cannabis can be tourism. I'm not trying to say don't allow the cannabis, but maybe we need to consider. I say no, you can't do it. But maybe come back to that. Again. The other thing I want to say is I was a planning commissioner for have a public hearing. And people show up, but the public at large was not happy with the results. And again, I've had the opportunity to there, but I didn't have to look at it level. And I honestly believe that. So that's
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. All right, no more public comment? All right, Mr. Lustoff.
From a business point of view, I can probably imagine that Mr. Gustafson probably has substantial amount of money.
Please raise the.
Substantial amount of money invested in this and time.
Yes.
Okay. That Mr. Gustafson probably has substantial amount of money and time in this project. And I understand that there's legitimate reasons that people are coming forward now. We just like to readdress it. It was my suggestion from a business person that take into consideration what he has going to go back. If there's a way to streamline the process so that the process doesn't just drag on. Help them out, make it faster if possible, so that he's not just stuck.
Thank you, Mr. Lustoff. Any additional comments from the public? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Any comments from the council? Councilman Overton.
Okay, so we were talking about the traffic and I did not see the planning commissioners meeting. So there are two things were said, the only right turn, which is kind of concerning to me because that's a very busy traffic area. And I don't think that's going to be a good situation. I think we're going to find that that's going to be having some hazards there. What was the planning commissioner? Can you tell me what the planning commissioners, anybody tell me what the planning commissioner said on that point? And because here when I read in this, it just says improvements shall be made to the project access off of Highway 53 as recommended by California Department of Transportation. Doesn't really tell me anything about the, whether it's right turn or left turn, or is there going to be a turning lane put in? Is there going to be, it doesn't really tell me anything. So I was concerned about that myself. And also, Dave Hughes brought up, and believe me, I didn't get to read all this too. Several things. Was this put out on a Friday and a note and then Saturday and then a meeting on Monday? Is that how that went? Alan?
So I'll address the process and notification first, and then we can talk about the other stuff. So the process in this project followed all of the legal noticing requirements and all of the noticing that we do for all of our projects, which requires that property owners, that there's a notice in the paper and property owners within 600 feet of the property boundaries are directly notified. So they were notified of the hearing. They were notified of the intent to adopt a mitigated negative declaration and had an opportunity to review the environmental document. This project was approved at a special meeting because of the availability of one of our planning commissioners at the regular meeting. And so there was not the regular 72-hour notice for a regular meeting. It was sent out. I don't recall. I'll take Mr. Hughes' word for it that it went out on a Saturday. But, I also want to point out that, it wasn't, some attempt to sneak the project through or anything like that. This was to accommodate the planning commission's schedule, which is why we held the Monday meeting. And then, the project, the traffic, the scenic corridor, all those things are within the purview of the planning commission, which they made a decision on, which there was the opportunity for anyone from the public to file an appeal so that the city council could review and make recommendations related to those things. But I've been advised that it's probably not in the best interest of the city council to get into the discussions tonight about what did Caltrans say about the traffic and all that. We would refer anyone who has interest in that to the use permit conditions and the information that was presented before the planning commission at the time. And I don't know if there's anything the city attorney wants to add related.
Right.
Good points brought up. City council role is to develop for us, and that deals with like fees and vested rights. So if the council, so you can't go back and read the that's an understanding. That's not what our said. If going forward, we want to do it right, we should have the city council. Or if there was an appeal that somebody's planning from the council's a little bit strange as to what level and what facilities it has to deal with. For it, there are some certain parts of that we can discuss today to get how much money we want to charge them and what fees come back to the city, but
Okay, thanks you. Councilman Kramer.
Yeah, First of all, Mr. Hughes, I guess I was the one with the bright idea to eliminate the 12 and go with what the codes stated. I felt sure that we had with the planning commission, the process that going through it, that would protect the city and protect everyone's rights and would in fact limit the properties to those that qualified. And I know I had calls from both you and Mrs. Looselot virtually when I got home after that council meeting. So I know how you feel about it. Okay. That said, I felt, and I still feel, that the planning commission is there to, with those protections, to make sure the project is appropriate. That said, I do question the ingress and egress situation. Looking on the map, it's right out on the highway. I don't know what, I didn't have the time to look up Caltrans's specifications, but there is that alternative ingress, I think, on the easement, is, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Gustafson. And I would encourage you to consider that, because I think that from a person that goes up and down that highway and sees the speed of car traffic going up and down the highway, turning off and turning on into your property along that area is going to be a problem. And, you know, I was on the planning commission for a time, and I quite honestly listened to staff tell me on one situation that, and that staff person isn't here anymore, by the way, that everything was going to be fine on this particular project. Well, that project is still hanging out there because we allowed it to go the way it was projected. So I don't know, that maybe we can't take a time out. Our attorney is telling us right now that no, we can't go back and look at the ingress and egress, or back and say, I guess the parking is what, four spaces short. That's not a big deal to me, but it could be. The water source, I am a little confused about that. If you've got a greenhouse of what, 40,000 square feet that you're going to be raising nursery stock in, and you're only going to use 8 gallons a minute, that seems a little bit light to me, but I'm not growing cannabis, so I'll have to take your word on that. The scenic corridor, quite honestly, with building design requirements, which I think were put into the planning commission's report, I think those things will protect that scenic corridor. It's a C4 area. It's going to be industrial. It's an industrial area. We all recognize it's an industrial area. So I'm not all that concerned about the scenic corridor question. But the one that I'm really concerned about is the ingress and egress directly onto Highway 53. Again, if we can't do anything about it, if we can't consider that in our discussion tonight, we're asked that it go back to planning for that specific item. And I don't want to hold you up, Mr. Gustafson, either. You've done, in the past, you've done some things that have been very helpful to the city. You saved a restaurant that everybody uses. I appreciate what you've done. So I'm not trying to shoot something down for you, but I do want to make sure that your project is done correctly and takes into account the most safe, the safety of the city, safety going up and down Highway 53 being the most specific one. I would encourage you to look at that ingress, egress off of the easement rather than directly onto the highway.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kraft. Mr. Claff, you have any additional comments?
Mr. Jones, can you just clarify the appeal process for me again?
After a decision is made by the planning commission, appeal period, I believe, maybe
7 days, I think.
7 days, that anybody, don't have to be a member, can appeal it. And that decision then comes to city council, and it's, you have a new opportunity to address all those that would have been decided. If those 7 days pass and nobody files an appeal, then that decision is.
So that appeal process can occur simultaneously with this vote as well, right? This is two separate situations?
If there was an appeal that was filed, then we would have.
Okay.
The opportunity for appeal has already passed, though.
Oh, okay. All right.
Or additional comments from the council? I have two comments. One is you're telling in the report that there are 6 employees typically, and then extra staff during harvest season. How much more people at harvest season? And I know from working with Caltrans in the past on engineering projects that I think Caltrans will be very strict. And I have no doubt that they will do the right thing. So those are the two comments I want to make. All right, any other discussions from council? If not, excuse me, go ahead.
If I could just, I want to make one clarification so the council doesn't see this and get confused. So I think it was maybe Mr. Hughes that mentioned some of the design elements. So that when the planning commission had the public hearing on this project and reviewed all the materials, one of the commissioners said that they would like to see there were 2 design options for the facade of the building that were prepared by Mr. Gustafson. There was a request to do an additional design option that further broke up kind of the massing of the building. And so the planning commission, I told the planning commission at the time, you can go ahead and you could approve the project now and bring back that piece of it. You could give direction to staff on what you want to see. They decided to go ahead and approve the project, but to have a different design option come back to the commission for them to approve. So Mr. Gustafson had his architect do a 3rd design option. We are scheduling a hearing for the planning commission to look at that one design option and approve it or make further recommendations. So just want to make sure that members of the public and the council are clear on that's the only item that they've requested additional information and looking at, and that is expected to happen at the regular planning commission meeting next week.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Flora. All right, any additional, sorry, the public is closed, Mr. You'll have next time at the public hearing is closed.
We're deliberating.
We are deliberating. Any comments more from the council? If not, can I entertain a motion?
You gonna make a motion? I'll make the motion. I'd like to make the motion to hold the first reading on ordinance number 255-2021. Read it by title only, waiving further reading and setting the second reading and adoption for June 17th, 2021. See if I can find the ordinance.
You have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Overton and a second by Councilman Claffey. Let's do a roll call vote on this. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Overton, would you mind reading the ordinance by title?
Yeah, I was sitting here trying to find it.
Of development agreement.
Consideration of the development agreement DA 2021-03 Green Grow Solution LLC for a commercial cannabis operation.
Okay, we
A
have
second.
a motion by Councilwoman Overton and a second by Councilman Claffey. We'll find out. We'll find out here shortly. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Overton,
Aye.
Councilmember Kramer,
Aye.
Councilmember Claffey,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Purdock,
Aye.
and Mayor Slutin.
Aye. Okay, we'll move on to item number 12 on the agenda. Consideration of rejection of bids of demolishing of structures at 14525 Lakeshore. Madam, oh, we have
Yeah, Lieutenant Hobbs is going to
Lieutenant
present
Hoss
the
is
staff
gonna.
report.
Mayor, members of the council, working this time. The city advertised a notice inviting bids for the demolition of a structure at 14525 Lakeshore Drive. The notice was advertised on an online media outlet, the city website, and sent to various landholder rooms for the first week of May. The city opened the bids on May 27th. Two bids were received, one from Sherna Excavating and one from Resource Environmental. The lowest bid was Sherna Excavating at $53,439. The Resource Environmental was $83,000. The low bid from Sherna was non-responsive, did not have the required bid bond or the security were not included. So therefore, we only received one valid bid. The price difference of $30,000 is pretty extreme. So at this point, we're recommending the council reject all the bids, and we would rebid the project.
All right, thank you. Any questions from staff on this one? Councilman, Vice Mayor Purdock.
Just for clarity and for public awareness, that we're talking about the old Lakeshore Inn, is that correct?
The Sunflower
Restaurant, thank you.
Are there any adjacent buildings to that, or is that just?
It would be in this demolition.
Yeah.
Just the buildings on that property.
All right, thank you. Any additional comments from staff? If not, from the council here? If not, we open a public hearing. Any comments from the public on this item, Madam Clerk?
I've not received any emailed comments on this item, Mr. Mayor, and there are no hands raised within the Zoom.
Anybody from the public here? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Councilman Kramer has some additional comments.
Yeah, this is the old Lakeshore Inn, by the way. One of the more iconic buildings in the city of Clear Lake and Clear Lake Highlands before that, going back in the 40s or 50s. At one time, it was one of 7 restaurant lounges that were in Clear Lake and operating. Of those 7, 4 buildings have now been removed or burned down. This is one of 3 that's actually left. To me, it'd be a shame to destroy this building. I realize that the owner has done a very poor job in the stewardship of this building. It's not the building's fault, but he's been difficult to deal with. I don't think he sees reality as to the value of the building, and if he's got it for sale, his asking price probably would be okay if the building were, in a usable condition. It's got a considerable amount of damage inside. It needs to be dealt with. That said, I would hate to see a rush into this. We destroyed one of those other 7 buildings here a year or so ago, which is, of course, since now is resold. It's going to end up potentially as part of the sovereign nation. It's going to have a property, something put on it potentially, which would include a smoke shop, something that we specifically didn't want to see in our city any additional sales of tobacco. It's a sovereign nation. We can't stop it. Additionally, we're not going to get any sales tax out of that. I don't want to see that happen to this building or something similar. We need restaurants badly in this city. I would love to give this property a chance at least to see if something can be done to save the building, to have it rehab, somebody else come in, buy it and put it back into operation. God knows we need restaurants in the downtown corridor. And to lose this iconic building would just be a tragedy, in my opinion. So that's what I have to say about it.
Additional comments from Councilwoman Overton.
Oh, I wish you would have said that with the Silks restaurant, because that was way better than this one and much better view. And now we're gonna have something there that we don't want. What is the problem with this building? I see no pictures, I see nothing, so I'm just curious of how did we get involved in the demolition of this property?
This one started back in 2018. We received complaints from Lake County Public Health. They had gone to the location. They had numerous health violations. Code enforcement went out there. There was determined to be numerous really good violations. There was board, ceiling, structural supports underneath the building, mold growth, essentially everything in there has problems with it. These were addressed. There were numerous citations done, notices done to the property owner between 2018 and now. They have failed to fix any of the violations on the property. They have not paid any of the citation fees. We previously looked into doing receivership on the property. However, it was determined not to be financially feasible due to the amount of damage and things that we need to fix in the building. That's how.
So is the foundation bad? I mean,
There's
since
some
I don't have,
structural stuff in the
yeah.
foundation, not the whole
Yeah,
thing. There are areas where
yeah.
there are
But that to me is, we made this mistake already. I agree. We made a big, huge mistake with the Silks property. There was really not much wrong with it. They had already renovated half of it. And we did this. So, we're sitting here tearing down our history, and I'm really, we did it across the street on the potential that somebody was going to build there. And here we are many years later, and that has not happened. And we took businesses out where a building that was actually very sturdy and very beautiful and could have been very nicely presented to our city, where now our boardwalk is totally gone. We took Silks down, which was not necessary. I was in that building. I know exactly what was wrong with it. And here we are again. So I'm really kind of against this at all until I see some pictures or see the building or something, because I agree with Councilmember Kramer. We cannot keep tearing down our restaurants and then expect tourists to come here when we have nothing for them to come here for. People aren't going to come here to just go out on the lake. They want a place to go eat. They want a place to go drink, and they want a place to go dancing. This was a great restaurant at one time, has lots of dancing spaces, and it has a beautiful view of the lake. I personally don't want to tear it down. I think we need to be looking at something else here. I want to see what really is the constructional damage here. Is there pictures? Is there something that we can see? Right. Well, I know the view of the lake. I used to eat there and dance there. So
that information up. We
yeah.
didn't bring it tonight 'cause
Yeah.
we were just asking to
So
receive
maybe it
it.
would be good to maybe forward that to the council, because at this time, I'm going to, of course, subject to the bid. We don't want to do that anyway. But I would like, before it comes back, to have some more information, please.
Yeah, we can do, if there's a majority of the council doesn't want to tear the building down, we don't want to waste additional time doing bids, but we see no hope for this facility. There's been a number of investors through that building, none of which see any value in it. And so, outside of the history or the sentimental value to what used to be there, it remains and continues to be one of the most blighted properties in one of the most visible areas of the city. And so, we can provide additional information on the violations and things associated with that property, but I think you'll find that there's not much hope for that being renovated into something significant.
Councilman Kramer, you have some additional comment?
I do. I had a conversation with you earlier, City Manager Flora, in which you indicated you'd had a conversation with the present owner of the property with all these transgressions. He's got significant, citations, $30,000 or $40,000. Did he say to you, or did I misunderstand that he has it in escrow trying to sell it? Did he say that he had an
He
escrow?
says a lot of things that I don't believe, but yes, he did say that.
Okay, well,
So I,
slow this down a little bit and run that. If maybe he has finally come to the conclusion that he can't sell it for, what was it, 550,000 or whatever. Mr. Guston
I don't know
saved
what-
one restaurant, maybe you can save another. I just think we're moving too fast, and I think we need to explore the channels a little further, because I don't yet agree with you, Mr. Flora, that there's no hope. I think there is hope.
Well, I would definitely argue the point that we're moving fast on this. This gentleman has racked up tens of thousands of dollars of fines because he refused to do anything with the property. And this is something that, you know, we've been dealing with for multiple years, trying to bring it into compliance. But it's like Chief White has something.
Chief White, do you have any additional comment?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I think Lieutenant Hub gave a good background on this thing, but I just wanted to add, as the person in charge of the police department and code enforcement, I definitely hear the concerns about the historic aspect and all that. And really, ultimately, the council sets direction for us. So I think from the police department side, I just want to add that since I started here, this property has been a continual issue. Not only that, but it's not just this property this individual owns. He owns other ones throughout Lakeshore. They're all problems. I find it notable that, to my knowledge, he's never filed an appeal of this demolition order or anything of the sorts that I'm aware of. And I think that that's telling in terms of his willingness to do stuff. I was brought to my attention by staff that literally he walks across back and forth the hallway to one side or the other, saying one side said, "Oh, get rid of my citations," and so forth. That all said, ultimately, from the police department side and code enforcement, it would be very helpful to have some direction from the council of what your intentions are. We're finalizing the budget. My intention would be to ask for a significant allotment of funding to remove the blight that's on there if the building stays standing. I would also point out that this particular building was the genesis of the vacant commercial building ordinance. Specifically, you'll note that on this building, it's boarded up. There's been numerous citations and notices that that's in violation of the boarding up ordinance. So anyhow, that's where it stands. Again, we're willing to hear the direction. I totally understand the historical significance, everything else. We really just need to know from you if you want us to continue this direction, or we need to amend our budget request for this next upcoming budget to have funding to do some sort of remedy of at least the outside. I don't think it was mentioned, but there's been reports numerous times in the past about individuals living up on the area up top, going throughout the back and so forth. And so I need to have something to respond to the public when they come. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Chief, could you tell me what individual is living up? You said the owner of it's living up and back when he's there. What?
No, what the issue was is that individuals that are transient going in and out of there using it, we were able to take some steps early on that kind of curbed that in extra patrols. But there was numerous complaints about that going on there, which is why this continues to be on the radar. In my experience, the citations really had no effect. It's just when we propose some sort of next action, then all of a sudden we'll hear from the property owner. So
Are we doing it through administrative citations, or are we leaning the property, which obviously we can't collect?
Right. No, it's through administrative citations. The other thing that I'd point out too is that I don't see that the administrative citations have been any barrier to take any steps whatsoever on that property, to include literally taking the 5 minutes that it would take to go there and remove the notices that are on the window, or perhaps take an hour of time and paint the boards that are up on the window, so at least to come into compliance. But there seems to be no concern by the property owner to do any of that.
Is there any recourse against the property owner specifically beyond the administrative citation?
So at this point, the path forward that I see, and I don't want to venture too far off the item, but in order to help give us direction, the path forward is either to demolish it, or from our perspective, is to ask for funding to do some sort of remedial stuff to the front to at least prevent access, and also to make sure that it complies with the vacant commercial building ordinance. My thought would be is that's all going to fall into the city, that the property owner has no interest in doing any of that.
Councilwoman Overton, you have some additional comment.
Well, I'm not saying, I don't know if it needs demolished. I don't know that. So what I personally would like to see is, of course, I don't want to see the historical thing go down, but if it's necessary, I would like to see, some more information on the building, such as pictures and stuff, so that we can kind of all have an idea of, maybe we'll change our minds. I don't know. But, I do agree that something needs to be done with the front, if nothing else, and some security there at the very, very minimum of this here. And so, but it's hard for me to make a decision on which way I want to go without some other information on the building itself, seeing some pictures. Maybe you can email us some pictures or something before the next meeting, and us be able to look and make some judgments calls at the next meeting. since this is gonna, obviously, we're asking for this bids to be turned down anyway, so that's probably not gonna come back to us again for a while, right?
So I do just want to clarify that the process, and I'll let the city attorney give the legal opinion, but this item would come before you if the property owner had an interest in trying to appeal it. So essentially, we would be putting on a case on behalf of them or some other interested party, I guess. But at this point, we're just gonna have to hear what your direction is. I don't know.
Well, I'm saying, what, can I make a comment before? We're being asked to reject these bids anyway, correct? So, okay, so before it comes back to us for the other bid, if we could just have some pictures with, when we get these things, it's really hard, especially when they're historical things to us. I mean, we grew up here, so, I mean, they are historical for us. They may not be for you guys, but they are for us. So you got to understand, I felt like, you know, we tore down a building already, and now we're in a situation that is going to be detrimental to our community. So I definitely don't want to do that again, but I also just don't want to tear down without having some full information. I understand this owner, believe me, I do understand this owner. So, but I would like to have some pictures when we're going to be doing this kind of stuff to give us an idea that this is definitely what needs to happen. So before it comes back to us again, I'd like to have pictures with the next one. That's all.
Great. Council Vice Mayor Cordell.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we're way off. This is not a kind of a point of order issue. It's just, are we gonna deny this, you know, as requested? I am familiar with the building. I've looked at it. I talked with a developer who was interested in looking at it. He said there was so much bug damage and the building, in his opinion, wasn't safe to even go into. I agree. I would love to save the history along Lakeshore Drive, but not when it's not safe for people to be in or around. Mr. Floor, anyway, we're rejecting it. So let's just deal with what's on the agenda and we'll move on from there.
Councilman Claffey, do you have any comments on this?
Yeah, I think this is a good discussion, way off topic, but a good discussion. I've been in there as well. It's horrendous. I get that the facade holds some historic value, but with an owner that's incredibly difficult to deal with and the condition of that building, I just don't know if we have options.
Great, thank you. I have some comments. I think this shows that we have to look at our historic buildings and actually designate them, because there are other benefits from that, that if you're buildings that are 50 years or older, you can get financing to rehabilitate them. So I think one of the steps that I like to see is we look at what we think are historical buildings in town and have a list that matches that. But you know, this is one building I haven't looked at, but there are a lot more buildings that are in such dire straits that nobody wants to touch them because it costs way too much to make them anywhere usable whatsoever. So I just pointed building right next to us. So can we have a motion to any public comment on this?
Okay. Just to clarify, from the police department's perspective and code enforcement, you definitely care about historical aspects and stuff. It's just a balancing. I think that the direction going forward that I hear is I don't think we would actually bring you a bid next time. We'd come in and ask for some direction and maybe different options, and then that makes for you definitely do care about the historical aspect, and we'll listen to your direction. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Chief.
Open the public hearing.
Real quick, to your point, Mr. Mayor, about the historic review, that you may recall that was part of the agreement with Downtown Strategies to do that very thing. And so they have been working on the inventory of that.
No comment from the public. Take it back to the council. Anybody want to make a motion to reject all bids?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilwoman Overton and a second by Vice Mayor Purdock. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. I would close the public regular meeting and we go to our closed session here in a minute. Oh, wait a second. I forget a couple of things. I'm just moving things too fast. City manager, you have any reports?
Just a couple of things. By the way, I don't mind things moving fast, but a few things. So the county is initiating a tax sale that's starting tomorrow. So there'll be a number of properties in the city on that auction, or not tomorrow, but Saturday. And concluding, I think, next Wednesday. The chip seal project in the avenues started this week. They got a fair amount done. They're going to be doing the fog seal over a portion of it tomorrow. And then we found out, I think today, that they're pulling off for actually a couple of weeks to do another job somewhere else. So they're not going to be completing that until they'll be back on the 14th to complete the rest of the project. The promenade project is coming along pretty well. Most of the concrete's done. That project will be largely complete in the next couple of weeks. There's some pieces of that that are kind of on back order. The seat wall that's going to be going along Lakeshore Drive is still a few weeks out, and the lights that will be mounted are also going to be a little bit delayed. So the area will be usable by the 4th of July, but there'll be a few things that the contractor will probably have to do after that, unfortunately. And then the final thing, we're doing a lot of things preparing for the July 3rd first concert in Austin Park. And so, as you know, of course, the Lions are putting together their normal celebration, but before the fireworks show, the city is working with Bicoastal Media to host Tyler Rich, which is a country music act. He is originally, I think, from Yuba City or somewhere over there, but is excited to come and do a show in Austin Park. So looking forward to that.
Awesome.
That's my report.
Councilman Kramer, anything exciting?
Oh, yeah, that's exciting. Attended APC LTA meeting yesterday. It's the usual stuff. We went through our budgets. Mayor Slotin was at the APC portion of it, and I think he can tell you about the budget if you like. It's really pretty much already been decided, so nothing really new there. The Highway 29 corridor or Highway 29 expressway project that they're working on now, which is, I think, one of 4 pieces, if I recall. They don't have the money yet for the other 3, and they're still looking for that. So I don't know when that will happen. Also had a Lake Links meeting earlier Tuesday, and had our 3rd quarter report. Ridership is up. The good news is the Pay Your Pal program use is up. That's where a person can basically get a friend to drive them someplace, and Lake Links will reimburse so much per mile for that. Program is doing really well, with the exception is that we're running out of money on it. It's was designed originally to do medical needs, pharmacy, essential shopping. We thought, for the health of older folks that are shut-ins otherwise, taking them to casinos, for instance, was.
Councilmember Kramer, can I remind you to
I'm
speak into your
sorry.
microphone, please? Thank you.
Taking them to the casinos was one thing that became very popular. And unfortunately, we're now about $21,000 in the hole on it. So we're going to have to cut something out unless we can get some help. I had lunch with Supervisor Simon a couple days ago and broached the subject with him of the casinos maybe helping out a little bit to offset some of the costs of that program. And I think they will help us. Our Lake Links is a 501c3. So if anybody wants to make a donation to it, for that, it would be deductible in that sense. So we would welcome any kind of donations from whoever might want to do that. When City Manager Flora mentioned the concert, and I had to finally drag it out of them who they had, Tyler Rich, he suggested that I listen to some of his music, and I did. And there's one song that's of particular interest named California Grown. I would suggest you go on and listen to it. In it, he's mentions Clearlake about 4 times. So he is from Yuba City and now lives in Nashville, Tennessee. And I think he's going to be really a great actor for our kicking this off. Also took City Manager Flora as well as several other people out to the Davis Street fuel reduction project. It's in process. They weren't working when we were there a couple days ago. They are today. Made considerable progress. They've got their masticator working up on the BLM end of it. They've done considerable amount of brush pushing down towards the bottom end and the center areas. And I think it's really going to make a difference in opening up and providing a fuel break that will really improve the safety of the avenues. So I'm excited about that. And it's the other part that's exciting about it is it's a collaboration between BLM, the county, and and actually me as a private landowner. But it came through a grant, as I think I mentioned before, from CAL FIRE administered by clerk. And it's, I think, will be the model for additional projects going forward in the county. I spent about an hour on the phone with a representative of BLM, and they're really excited about it, that it finally got going, and they see it as the gateway to many more fuel reduction projects, which are going to make our county safer. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilwoman Overton.
Yeah, I just have one thing to say. It's not really a report because I don't have anything to really report, but I'm hoping that everybody in our community that's been looking for the senior center to open up, we're hoping that they're going to approve us to open up at the same time the state is, which would be June 15th, which if we do, of course, we're going to have a big hurrah there. So everybody could come and join us and our seniors, and they're all anxious to get out and do something, anything. So, that's pretty much all I have. Thank you.
All right, Councilman Claffey.
I have nothing to report, but there's 2 things I'm excited about. First, just came up today. I'm excited to see Councilmember Kramer going on tour with Tyler Rich in the future. I think that's going to be a big party, and I'm looking forward to that. The other thing, and I might be stealing your thunder a little bit, Mr. Mayor, One Team, One Dream. Last year, we had 2 wonderful Clearlake businesses that were selected as winners. Applications are now open again. I've already recommended 1 entrepreneur, actually 2 entrepreneurs apply. If you're a business owner or you're hoping to be a business owner, this is really one of the best programs in Lake County, where you can get mentorship, you can learn from others' mistakes, and then, of course, at the end of the day, some great prizes associated with it. But I think really the process of learning how to competently run a business is really invaluable. So I really encourage you. It's One Team, One Dream, and please apply. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Purdog.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for attending the APC meeting for me. I was busy in a Blue Zones meeting and couldn't be in 2 places at once. I have received a few members of the public have provided comments regarding the chip seal. I shared a little bit with our city manager. I think this is an opportunity that we need to share, and we talked a little bit about more public information and maybe a press release or 2, because this is great stuff, man. We can't pave, but chip sealing is about as close as you can come to it, except we've got some problems, and I'm glad that Lieutenant Hobbs and the chief are still here. There have been some complaints coming in about speeders. Once all the holes are filled up and the road's relatively smooth, they love that gravel, and I can assure you, I've been out there on a couple of streets, and I can see the marks from fishtailing going up and down the street. So the residents are concerned for safety. To our Public Works Director, thank you so much for seeing this through. But if we could just see some extra patrol up there as this is settling in, it'd probably be great to see some cars stopped, just for the public awareness. It's kind of sometimes can be the wild, wild west up there. That concludes my comments for the night.
Yeah, that chip seal.
Have a
is-
do-over, Mr. Creighton?
Well, not a do-over, just an addition
Oh, okay.
on the chip seal. It's up to 28th Avenue, I believe, today, when I went by it. And then I guess what you're saying, they'll go back starting on 29th. But it looks like it's complete through 28th. So
Also, I want to echo Councilman Claffey, one team, one dream. The big price is now $50,000. That's a little bit of money to get something started. So I think that's really cool. I did attended part of the APC meeting. I wasn't there for the Lake Links one, but I had some other things. I just want to make a comment. I've been with our, there seems to be finally some interest in building market rate housing in our community, and I'm really excited about that. So details to follow. So that should be awesome. And you know, I agree. We do need to really show a little bit more what we've been doing here. There are a lot of exciting projects that we're working on. Some of them are moving faster than others, but they are moving forward every week. So I think in about 2 years, you'll really see a big difference in this town. That's it. Future agenda items. I have one. Historic buildings. Because I do think it will help with be able for, if there are building owners that they want to and can't afford to rehabilitate a building that is deemed historic in our eyes, that they get some grant money that is available. So
Yeah, so just on that point, I mean, yeah, at some point that will come back when the inventory is done. I mean, their initial look at it, I mean, there's actually very few, if any, buildings that of their own right have like architectural historic significance, but there are a lot of opportunities by creating a historic district in the downtown itself. Then those property owners within that district are eligible for the tax credits and whatnot for renovation. So definitely something that we want to take advantage of.
that can just take the, you know, the tipping point for some of these buildings and some of these owners working on it. But I think in general, there's kind of a problem that some of the buildings that are boarded up and all that is simply because we have property, out of town property owners that just don't take care of it. Simply said. So yes, there might be historic value to those things, but we need to look at an overall picture and what's better for the city. All right. That's it. Meeting adjourned. And I will reconvene in closed session in 5 minutes.